what it is about the quilting process, but it brings out more opinions and brain gremlins than just about any other technique. My name is Holly, a Knight of String and Story, and it's my job to guide you to quilt with confidence. And today I am here to pick a fight with your brain. Now, a little more specifically, I want to speak to what I call your inner mean grump. This is that critical voice that lives inside your head that likes to stop you at every turn when you're curious about learning something new, etc. Now, the inner mean grump is actually a really important part of your brain. It's rooted deep in your brain. It's an ancient part of your brain that helps keep you alive. We love that part. Alive is good. And it's your inner mean grumps, that part of your brain's job, to tell when there is imminent danger, to perceive threat. The challenge is that this part of your brain can't tell the difference between a self-critical thought about your new free motion quilting skills and a hungry tiger that is actually going to try to eat you. And so it feels the same in your body. Those feelings of discomfort can rise very quickly. And so when we run into roadblocks as we're learning to quilt our own quilts, sometimes our inner mean grump wins and we quit before we get to the good part because it feels hard, it feels uncomfortable, it feels unsafe. Today, I want to tackle your inner mean grump by busting 5 myths about quilting your own quilts. So hopefully you have some tools to speak back to that critical part of your brain, stay in the game, keep practicing, and become a quilting rock star who can confidently finish your own quilts. Let's get started busting those myths. Myth number 1, I'm not an artist, therefore I'm going to ruin my quilts. Now, we've all been at the quilt show and we have seen the beautiful quilts. Most recently, I got home from Road to California and some of the quilting I saw was absolutely breathtaking. And it's easy to think that if our quilting isn't going to look like that on the first try, that we have in fact ruined our quilts. Now, let me be straight with you. I think the only way to truly ruin a quilt is to leave it unquilted. The point of a quilt is the joy units you have while making it and the joy units you or the recipient has while snuggling it. So if we never get to that snuggling part, that's the only way I think that we can leave it ruined. As far as addressing this concern about being an artist, I know it's easy to think that you have to be good at drawing or good at art in order to make those beautiful free motion quilting shapes. In reality, free motion quilting is a whole lot more like handwriting. There's a pretty finite number of shapes that you can learn and practice, and the more time you spend practicing, the more confident you will be about making them, the more competent you will be about shaping them the way that you want, and the more likely you are to use them to actually finish your quilts. So instead of worrying about maybe how art class used to be, think about how once upon a time you didn't know how to write your name and now you can write it with confidence, and your quilting is going to be the same way. Myth number 2, I don't have time to quilt all my quilts. Now, in myth number 1, we talked about the importance of practice and how consistency is going to build your competence. But if you are booked and busy, as many of us are, your next thought might have been, I don't have time for this. I have really wonderful news for you, though. You don't need to spend hours and hours and hours practicing your quilting in order to see progress. In fact, when you're getting started, I recommend working in 15 or 20-minute snacks to give your body and your brain a taste of this new skill, and then I want you to go take a break. Quilting is a very physical activity. You're having to move things around underneath your machine or move a big heavy long arm around. So little bits of time where you can practice just a little bit and then take a step back is exactly the way that you should be building your skills, and you can fit even little bits of time into a busy schedule. Myth number 3, my machine can't do it. Or the closely related, I'm scared of my machine. Both of these myths are using your machine as a scapegoat for why you aren't making progress towards the thing that you want. Something that we haven't said out loud yet, but maybe it's time we do, is that if you're here learning about these myths, chances are you want to know how to quilt your own quilts, and you're looking for answers about how to move forward. And as we pull these myths down, that inner mean grump is just trying to put up roadblock after roadblock because it's scared. It is normal to be scared when you are learning something new. It is normal to be uncertain when you are a beginner. but we don't need to blame our sewing machine. If you're on a domestic sewing machine, chances are you can indeed learn how to free motion quilt and ruler quilt on your machine. You might want to start with smaller projects. You might have a little bit of a challenge finding a hopping foot. You might want to move slowly to make sure that you can move the bulk of that quilt through your throat space. But I have free motion quilted on everything from a tiny $97 Kenmore all the way up to a big industrial Juki and lots of different domestic machines in between. So whatever machine you are on is the perfect place to start. If you run into frustrations because you have a small machine or it's not very powerful, you can always upgrade later. But let's start building those skills first. Now, the flip side of this myth, maybe being a little bit scared of your machine, this side of the coin tends to affect new and nervous long-arm quilters. If you are in your sewing room and you have a long-arm quilting machine that you have had for quite some time, but are scared to plug in or turn on, you are not alone. I cannot tell you the stories I've heard of folks who have had their long arm for years before they've had the courage to use it. Don't worry, plug it in, switch it on. I promise it's not going to combust into glitter the moment that you look at it sideways. Your long arm was meant to be used. It is durable, and step by step is going to become your best friend as you learn how to quilt with confidence. Myth number 4, real quilters make show quilts. Yeah, they do. And they also make picnic blankets and baby blankets and curtains and pillows for the dog bed and any number of other amazing things. What type of quilt you want to make and what its ultimate purpose is not the thing that gives your work meaning. As I said at the beginning of our time together, your work is meaningful because of the joy units that you have while making it and the joy units that you or the other recipients have while snuggling with it. Now, if your brain is playing this comparison game because somewhere in your heart of hearts, you do want to quilt show quilts, first of all, I want to remind you of the wise words of someone I admire named Robin Arson. She recently said that comparison is the fastest road to burnout. Okay, we waste a lot of energy playing the comparison game. And if you are constantly looking at where you are as a beginner quilter and comparing against another quilter who is further along their journey, all you're going to do is exhaust and discourage yourself. I encourage you to break that cycle of thought. But that doesn't mean that we have to ignore what this cycle of comparison might be telling you. If you are interested in learning how to quilt show quilts, I encourage you to go for it. Build your foundation first, learn the basics on some more practical quilts, and then move towards developing your show quilting skills. That's going to be an awesome journey, Rockstar. And if you do not have the desire to quilt show quilts, that's okay. Quilt the quilts that you love, that you want to use in the ways that you want to use them, and have as much fun as possible along the way. Myth number 5. Everybody else already has this figured out. Rockstar, if I had a nickel for every single time a student in one of my classes, I teach a lot of intro to FMQ and intro to ruler work classes, I had a nickel for every time someone said to me, this is probably a silly question, or this is probably a dumb question, I would be unbelievably rich. And let me tell you, not one time has it been a silly or a dumb question. Every single time it has been a normal beginner question. As grown-ups, it's hard to be a beginner. We don't spend a lot of time being completely new at something, and that feels really unfamiliar. We're not sure what kind of foundational knowledge we should already have. We're constantly nervous about whether or not other people have foundational knowledge that we secretly don't. And it just plain feels uncomfortable. But let me tell you, every quilter, whether they are a prolific quilter of gifts and snuggly quilts or a prolific quilter of show quilts, once started exactly where you are. They learned how to pull up their bobbin thread. They learned how to adjust their tension. They learned how to bury thread tails and all those little things that are part of autopilot once you build up your skills. If you bump into a little skill that you don't know how to do and you don't know how to find a tutorial, you are in exactly the right place. You're always welcome to reach out and ask me. I just want you to know from now on, it's not a dumb or a silly question, and everyone doesn't have it figured out. We're just learning as we go. And there you have it, Rockstar. 5 key myths about finishing your own quilts, named and busted. I hope you feel encouraged. I hope you feel lighter. And even if that inner mean grump is still chattering a little bit, I hope there's a louder voice in your head asking, can we learn this? Maybe we can finish our own quilts. If you're curious about knowing how to finish your own quilts with confidence, I would love to be your guide along the way. Make sure you hit like and subscribe here on YouTube, and check out the links down in the caption of this video where I have a free workbook that's going to guide you through quilting your first project with confidence, and a link to my blog where I unpack these myths in even more depth. Thank you for being here, Rockstar, and I'll see you again soon.